and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is the author of the memoir Bridemaid, no other than Miss Mia J. Hanks. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Mia, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thank you for having me. I'm Mia Hanks, and I'm the author of Bridemaid, and it's my memoir. I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I was married to a covert narcissist for 29 years. And after I got out of that marriage and untangled from everything, I decided to write a memoir. I thought maybe it might be helpful to other people out there who are going through similar situations. I wrote this, and I'm just hoping that it lands in the right hands of people who need to read it. And I hope it can help somebody out there.
Miss Mia Hanks, thank you so much for your bravery for doing your memoir. So, can you describe your experiences leading up to the wedding?
I didn't really know what I was stepping into when I first met my now ex husband. Things seemed great. He seemed just over the top attentive. Everything was wonderful. It was that love bombing stage that I was in, but didn't realize it. And it really wasn't until I was well into this marriage that I began to realize that something wasn't right. I came into it very naive, and it just took a long time to figure out that how I was living was not how other people out there were living. It took a long time to figure it all out, and then to figure out how to get out of it. I'm one of the lucky ones that did get out. And I really want, I have a very passionate about helping other people who are in these situations and feel stuck.
So, your book will be their guidance.
I hope so. I hope that, I tried to show in my book what day to day life with the narcissist is like. Just, the everyday little things. When I was first deciding to write this book, I had been trying to read everything I could find about narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, and everything I found was written by either a psychologist or a therapist. I was really looking for an insider's point of view, and I couldn't find that. So that's what I tried to provide in this book, is just an insider point of view of what it really is like from a victim and now a survivor's viewpoint.
So, what are the challenges did you face and how did you overcome them?
Definitely challenges with just self esteem, being gaslit and told for years and years that I couldn't make it on my own, that I had to rely solely on my husband. And, really over the years, it just broke me down. And so gaining that confidence, and feeling empowered enough to leave, it is definitely a huge challenge, I think, that a lot of victims face. And just that feeling like, I can't ever make it on my own. So definitely a challenge, but I had some good people around me, and, I was able to make this break.
So, Miss Mia, how does your memoir depict the emotions involved in preparing for marriage?
I think I was able to go back and kind of relive all of these accounts. I basically, my memoir is a series of short stories, starting from meeting my husband all the way through our divorce, and it's just chronological, of my life with him. And I tried to put as much emotion in there to explain to the readers how I was feeling. I want to make that connection with the reader, and that was very challenging because you really have to get vulnerable. And that was hard for me. You really have to take down those walls, and you have to, and it's on some level, it's a bit embarrassing, really. But I had to just move past that and say, if this helps somebody, it's worth it. So yeah, I did try to incorporate a lot of that emotion and try to describe how I was feeling, with each story that I told.
So, Miss Mia, what do we learn from your personality and values throughout your memoir?
I hope that people can see how easy it is to slip into a relationship with a narcissist, just how manipulative and calculating they can be. I hope that I'm showing how easy it is to fall into that, and then how easy it is to get swept up and almost trapped. How easy it is to get broken down and to really give yourself fully to this person and really lose your own identity. And then, of course, kind of figuring out that this is not right and gaining some confidence and getting enough support to finally break free and create your own life.
Congratulations, Miss Mia,
Thank you.
for that freedom. So, how does your perspective on love and marriage evolve throughout the book?
Well, in the beginning, you can see that I was very intent on making this marriage work, even though there were challenges early on. I saw definite personality quirks in my husband. Um, I wanted to make it work. I think society tells us that. And especially after my two children were born, I think society tells us that you stay in the marriage for the kids, you keep your family together, you don't want your kids to be children of divorce. And so I think you can see that throughout my book. That is my intention. um, and then toward the end, as my kids are growing up and getting older and becoming young adults themselves, um, I think I do start to show that I start to become more aware of really what's been happening, and finally, aware enough to say I need to leave, and then to look back and have some regret, and say I wish I would have left sooner. I wish I hadn't left my kids in that dysfunctional, in this dysfunctional household for so long. But hindsight is 2020, and definitely, my view has evolved on that, and realizing that if anytime there's abuse, um, the idea that we stay for the kids and we keep our family together is really not the best option.
Certainly. And what role do family and friends play in your wedding journey?
So family and friends, yeah. Uh, I'm very close with my parents, and so they really had an insider point of view, an insider, glimpse into everything that was happening in my marriage. As far as friends, I never had a lot of friends when I was married. That's
Yes.
kind of by design. Narcissists don't really want you to have that support system. So yeah, I mean, throughout my marriage, my parents were supportive of this marriage, but they saw things they didn't like. And then, in the end, they were the ones that were my support system when I decided to leave. I didn't really have friends to at that point when I was deciding to leave. I didn't have friends to lean on. Quite frankly, all of my friends thought my husband was, father of the year, husband of the year. He was fantastic, because remember, this guy he's a covert narcissist.
Mhm.
So to the outside world, he's fantastic. He's wonderful. So I really, that left me with no one, no friends to lean on when I was exiting this marriage. But I did have my family, and ultimately, that's what saved me.
He's an actor then.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, Miss Mia, how does your memoir portray societal expectations of brides and marriage?
I think, yeah, in the beginning, it shows, my feeling, which was when little things popped up and little issues that would later become big issues. My ex-husband, he really has no empathy, and that showed very early, in my marriage. But because of those societal expectations, I thought, well, it's strange that he, really doesn't care about people,
Yes.
but I'll just kind of sweep that under the rug because, we're told that we get in a marriage to make it work. I certainly didn't enter this marriage to get a divorce. Um, so I started, letting these little things slide, and his control over me. Again, I wrote it off as personality quirks because, we're taught to think that I mean, marriage is not easy and there's going to be challenges. And I just assumed these were the challenges. And this is what everybody went through, and this was normal. And for years, that was what was running through my head.
So, Miss Mia, what conflicts arise between personal desires and traditional expectations in the story?
I think, yeah, just that idea that I needed to stay and work this out. And it's embarrassing to admit to other people that you're having issues in your marriage. So I kind of just thought, well, if I just ignore it and I don't deal with it, it'll go away and eventually it'll get better, right? You think, surely this gets better. And you wait and you wait. And narcissists don't get better. Studies have shown that they only get worse with age. But again, I'm waiting it out, thinking, surely this is going to change someday. He's going to suddenly become empathetic. He's going to suddenly be a caring person. That never happened and never will. So it was just sort of that conflict of realizing and having to be honest with myself that this isn't going to change. As much as I wanted it to change, and I wanted him to be, quote unquote, a normal husband, it was not going to be. And so I had to kind of reconcile that and realize that I had to just get honest with myself.
So, how does your memoir explore the idea of self discovery in the context of marriage?
I think you can see early, early to middle of my book that I just I don't know who I am really. When I got into this marriage, it was my identity was gone. And I think it's probably evident through my stories that I was really just kind of living day to day. I would just make it to the next day, and then you make it to the next day. And I didn't really have goals. I didn't have dreams. I just wanted to make it to tomorrow, right? And so, but then toward the end, I start to realize I can have my own life and I can make my own decisions. And this could, even though it's all overwhelming, it can be fun and it can be exciting. And so toward the end, I think you start to see in my book that I'm gaining a sense of self. Yeah. But it takes time to build that.
Certainly. What symbols or motif are repeated throughout your memoir and what do they represent?
I wouldn't say it's repeated. But it's mentioned, and then it's also on my cover is um, the image of a cage. And I do say
Yes.
in my book that basically I was a prisoner in a golden cage, and I didn't realize I was helping to build it. And that is the truth. I was helping him imprison me. Basically, I was helping him put me in this cage where I felt trapped. And because I didn't have the knowledge about narcissism, I didn't understand that my husband was a narcissist. um, I just didn't know enough to know what was happening, and I just went with the flow. And before I knew it, I was really trapped. There comes financial abuse, oftentimes with a narcissist, and a lot of reasons why you begin to feel like you can't leave. And before you know it, you do feel trapped, and you feel like it's just too daunting to ever take that step toward freedom.
So, Miss Mia, what would be your advice for those people out there suffering from abuse?
I would say I don't stay in it because you think that it's going to get better or that you think it's going to change. It's chances are most likely it will not. Um, and I would really urge anyone out there who is a victim of this type of abuse, you need to reach out and find some support, whether that's through a family member, through a therapist. Find somebody that you can talk to, and then really, if you decide that it's not a healthy environment for you to be in, and it probably isn't, you need to start taking the steps to plan how you can walk away from this. I always say with a narcissist, you're not leaving a neurotypical person, so it does take planning, and it does take some care to get yourself out safely, and I think it's really important to take those necessary steps.
Miss Mia, thank you so much for your advice.
You're
I
welcome.
hope
Thank you.
people out there will follow you. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Short-term goals, as far as short-term goals really are just to promote my book and try to get it out there. Try to raise awareness about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, and help other victims find their voices. Long term, I'm not sure. I people ask a lot, what are your plans? And I don't know. I'm still sort of reveling in this newfound freedom that I have, and
Yes.
I wouldn't say I have any real hard plans at this point. Just kind of taking it day to day and seeing what happens. So I would really consider writing again. This was a really therapeutic um, thing that I did, and I feel like it was a good experience. So yeah, I think I would like to write again at some point.
Indeed, and enjoy your new freedom.
Thank
So,
you.
are there any particularly memorable passages or quotes, or quotes from the book?
Um, yeah, I try to throughout the book. I'm telling my story, but another thing that I do is I put in some quotes that I think are very relevant, and I'll read one. It's a short paragraph.
Please, yes,
This is one
go
that
ahead.
I think is that a lot of people want to ask, why did you stay so long? You know, and a lot of times victims of narcissistic abuse are in these relationships for what can be decades. Um, and it's really hard to answer that question when people say, why did you stay so long? And I found this quote, and I put it in my book because I think it really is the best explanation for that question. This is a quote by Stephen King, actually. I think he said this in an interview that he was giving. But I think it's very relevant to the question of why do people stay. Here's the quote. There's a phrase, the elephant in the living room, which purports to describe what it's like to live with a drug addict, an alcoholic, an abuser. People outside such relationships will sometimes ask, how could you let such a business go on for so many years? Didn't you see the elephant in the living room? And it's so hard for anyone living in a more normal situation to understand the answer that comes closest to the truth. I'm sorry, but it was there when I moved in. I didn't know it was an elephant. I thought it was part of the furniture. There comes an aha moment for some folks, the lucky ones, when they suddenly recognize the difference. And I think that really helps to explain why people stay. You
Yes.
normalize it. You just normalize it, and you don't see it as abuse. You see it as quote unquote part of the furniture. So yeah, I like that quote a lot.
Interesting, Miss Mia, and thank you for sharing that code. So, how did you use humor, nostalgia, or vulnerability to engage the reader?
Yeah, the vulnerability is a tough one. Like I say, really taking down those walls, that was not something I was good at, especially coming out of this marriage where, I end up as someone who is not very trusting of people, very skeptical. And so it's hard to take down those walls and really tell people how I was feeling. In some of these stories, it's just embarrassing, really, to admit that I put up with and that I tolerated this type of behavior. Um, so yeah, it's sharing the emotions and how these different instances made me feel was extremely challenging, but I think it's important for the reader to see what was going on in my head and what was going on in my heart while these things are happening. So definitely a great way to connect, but not easy.
Not easy, people. So, how does your memoir compare to other wedding or marriage related books?
I think the difference, I mean, I hope the difference is I'm giving that insider point of view. I want people to, and I'm describing just mundane things. I talk about everything from just the smallest of events to more dramatic events, but just something simple like going out to eat. um, I'm describing mundane everyday things and showing what it's like with a narcissist in tow. So I hope that it's different and that it's really showing that insider point of view. That was my goal.
Yes, indeed. So, Miss Mia, before we wrap up our discussion today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Mental Health 101, in its first season. People, first season, Mental Health 101 is created to empower mental health itself. So, what is your biggest takeaway from your memoir?
My biggest takeaway, um,
Yes.
definitely that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it really, um, I feel empowered that I was able to be honest. That was really, I didn't know how, I think I hid so much. I hid so much of what was going on. And to put everything out there, as hard as it was, that honesty and openness, there was freedom in that. And that was I think the biggest thing that the writing process did for me.
Miss Mia J. Hanks, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your memoir to the world. I hope people out there learn from it. And we are looking forward for more empowering books like this. So can you please invite our listeners to support your memoir?
Yes, please check out my memoir. It's available online everywhere books are sold, Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and it's available in ebook and paperback.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Mia J. Hanks because if you support her, as I said, more empowering books like this. So, Miss Mia, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Mardigan people, see you soon.